Timothy Pizza's story is shrouded in mystery and heartbreak. On the morning of May 11th, 2011, Timothy began his day like any other. His father drove him to school in Illinois, dropped him off, and went about his day. But this was no ordinary day. A few hours later, Timothy's mother arrived at the school to withdraw him from his classes. Security footage from the school's CCTV confirmed that she picked him up, something she had every legal right to do. The footage showed no signs of distress. Both appeared cheerful and calm. What followed was a 3-day journey during which Timothy and his mother visited various water parks and amusement parks. It seemed like a spontaneous and joyful trip. But back home, Timothy's father arrived at the school that afternoon to pick him up, only to find that his son was nowhere to be found. Concerned, he went inside to inquire, only to learn that Timothy had left earlier with his mother. Realizing the gravity of the situation, he contacted family members, and soon, the police were involved in the search. On May 13th, Timothy's mother made several phone calls to relatives, reassuring them that Timothy was safe and that they were just enjoying a mother-son road trip. In one of these calls, Timothy's voice could be heard faintly in the background, complaining about being hungry. Authorities traced the call to an area northwest of Sterling, near Route 40. Later that evening, tragedy struck. Timothy's mother, Amy, was found dead in a hotel room in Rockford. She had taken her own life, leaving behind a haunting note. In it, she apologized for the pain her actions would cause, and wrote that Timothy was safe and in the care of people who would look after him. Her note, however, gave no clues about Timothy's exact location. In the days that followed, investigators combed through CCTV footage along their route. The recordings showed Timothy and his mother visiting various attractions, checking into hotels, stopping at convenience stores, and even interacting with staff. The last known footage of Timothy was captured in the lobby of a hotel, where he was seen fidgeting and playing while his mother spoke with staff at the front desk. Timothy appeared healthy and unharmed in the video. Shortly after, another video surfaced, this time showing Amy at a dollar store, alone. She purchased items that investigators later determined were used in her suicide. From there, she returned to the Rockford Hotel, checked in, and carried out her devastating plan. Despite numerous leads and occasional false alarms over the years, Timothy's whereabouts remain unknown. The case continues to baffle investigators and haunt those who search for answers. 28-year-old Lisa Govan disappeared under mysterious and unsettling circumstances in the early hours of October 8, 1999. She was last seen near the Foundry Hotel on Boulder Road in Kalgoorlie, Western Australia, a place that, at the time, carried a reputation for lawlessness and danger. Despite 2 witnesses claiming to have seen Lisa that morning, she vanished without a trace, leaving behind questions that have haunted her family, friends, and investigators for over 2 decades. On the evening of October 7th, Lisa dropped her boyfriend off at work before heading to the Safari nightclub to meet friends. CCTV footage from inside the club captured her socializing with patrons, mingling with ease, and enjoying the night. The group stayed until the early hours of October 8th, when Lisa and a work colleague, known as the Bald Man, left the club around 4:45 a.m. in a taxi. However, for reasons unknown, Lisa returned to the nightclub shortly after to rejoin her friends. The Bald Man later told investigators that he expected Lisa to come to his house the next morning, but when she didn't show up, he grew concerned and called her repeatedly. He has since been ruled out as a suspect, though his worry that morning underscores the first signs that something was terribly wrong. As the morning progressed, Lisa was seen at the Deros Outlaw Motorcycle Gang Clubhouse, located on Boulder Road and attached to the Foundry Hotel. She had reportedly been invited there and spent some time socializing and playing billiards. Multiple accounts place her outside the clubhouse between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m., talking on her mobile phone. Witnesses said she appeared calm, not distressed or fearful. Other reports suggest she was seen inside the clubhouse as late as 7:45 a.m., though it remains unclear whether anyone witnessed her leaving. Later that morning, 2 separate witnesses claimed to have seen Lisa. One reported spotting her walking south along Boulder Road, while the other alleged seeing her in the parking lot of a McDonald's nearby, speaking to 2 men on motorbikes. Unfortunately, neither sighting has ever been confirmed. Lisa's family was shocked and confused to learn that she had been associating with members of an outlaw motorcycle gang. While some friends were aware of her newfound connections and had warned her of the potential dangers, Lisa appeared unfazed by the risks. Her mother would later describe her as strong-willed and independent, but no one could have predicted the consequences of these relationships. Her boyfriend reported her missing later that day when he returned from his night shift and found she still wasn't home. When he tried to file a police report, he was told to wait 48 hours because Lisa was an adult. Frustrated but determined, he drove around searching for her, but to no avail. Lisa's parents soon joined the desperate search, using metal detectors in hopes of finding any trace of her belongings, but nothing, not her phone, clothes, or any other item, was ever recovered. Kalgoorlie in 1999 was described as a Wild West town where the influence of violent biker gangs loomed large. Investigators believe that locals might know what happened to Lisa, but are too afraid to come forward due to the gang's reputation. Detectives theorize that Lisa likely died inside the Daros clubhouse on October 8th, but their investigation was hindered by what they called a Bicky code of silence. Witnesses refused to speak, and vital information remained locked away in a community gripped by fear. Authorities approached senior gang members shortly after Lisa's disappearance, but a full week passed before they conducted a raid on the clubhouse. By then, any potential evidence was long gone. Over the years, suspicions of corruption within the original investigation have surfaced. Reports from 2002 revealed that a senior officer had financial ties to the Foundry Hotel at the time, raising questions about whether key details were deliberately overlooked. Additionally, there were rumors that bikers had been tipped off about police activity by officers who drank at the same pubs as the gang members. In recent years, investigators have released photographs of a white 1985 Toyota Land Cruiser that was seen arriving at the clubhouse on the morning of Lisa's disappearance. They hope that locating this vehicle might provide DNA evidence to shed light on what happened that fateful day. Lisa Govan was just 28 years old when she vanished. She was described as a white woman with brown hair, blue eyes, and a slim build, standing approximately 5 feet tall. On the day she was last seen, she was wearing a black skirt, a long-sleeved black top, black sandals, and a leather choker with a dolphin pendant. A $1 million reward is currently being offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for Lisa's presumed murder. Her case remains one of Australia's most haunting unsolved mysteries. This tragic story doesn't end with the hope often held in missing person cases. Hannah Graham, an 18-year-old British-American college student, disappeared on September 13, 2014. The night before, around 1:20 a.m., she texted a friend saying she was lost. Her friends had just left a party and planned to meet up, but Hannah never made it. The details of her final hours remain somewhat unclear. Surveillance footage provides the last glimpses of Hannah alive. The video shows her in a downtown mall in Charlottesville, Virginia, on the night of her disappearance. This was the last of several recordings where Hannah was seen. Earlier that night, Hannah was captured on camera at various locations, including Tempo Restaurant. She was reportedly with Jesse Leroy L.J. Matthew, a 32-year-old man, alongside another unidentified individual. In every video, Hannah appears heavily intoxicated, stumbling and nearly falling multiple times, heartbreaking signs of her vulnerability. Witnesses later recalled seeing her at McGrady's Irish Pub and near a Shell gas station before she arrived at the mall, where she was recorded at Sal's Cafe. One witness described an unsettling scene. Hannah was leaning unsteadily against an orange 1998 Chrysler Sebring, later confirmed to belong to Matthew. She was overheard saying, "I'm not getting into that car with you," her voice slurred but defiant. When Hannah's friends and family realized she hadn't returned home, they reported her missing. Police quickly began piecing together the scattered surveillance footage to create a timeline of her final movements. The urgency of the situation sparked a massive search involving over 1,000 volunteers. Despite their efforts, weeks passed with no sign of Hannah. Then, on October 18, 2014, a devastating discovery was made. Human remains were found on an abandoned property, and just 6 days later, they were confirmed to belong to Hannah. As investigators delved deeper, Jesse Matthew emerged as a prime suspect. It was uncovered that he had been with Hannah that night and was linked to her murder. He was charged with capital murder, a crime that could have carried the death penalty. Disturbingly, further investigation revealed that Matthew had ties to at least 4 other cases of abduction and assault. Hannah's story is one of unimaginable heartbreak, a young life full of promise cut tragically short. Connie Lynn Royce, a 24-year-old woman, was last seen on the night of June 1, 1990. That evening, she visited the Hayloft, a now-defunct bar located on North Gratiot Avenue in Mount Clemens, Michigan. In the days leading up to this night, Connie had met a man named Greg. They'd arranged to meet again, and on June 1st, she kept that promise. At around 9 p.m., Connie arrived at Greg's apartment. She joined him and his roommate Brad for a few drinks before the trio headed out to the Hayloft at approximately 10 p.m. According to staff working at the bar that evening, there was nothing unusual about the group. They didn't draw attention to themselves. No arguments, no drama. Everything seemed normal. But then, around 11 p.m., things took an unexpected turn. Greg had stepped away to use the restroom. While he was gone, Connie's demeanor abruptly shifted. Turning to Brad, she reportedly said, "I have to get out of here." Without further explanation, she left the table, leaving behind her handbag. CCTV footage captured Connie exiting the bar. She was barefoot, unsteady on her feet, and appeared to be intoxicated as she stumbled against the wall on her way out the door. This abrupt departure raised questions. Was she simply drunk, or had something more sinister happened? Some have speculated she may have been drugged, though there's no evidence to confirm this. When Greg returned and learned what had happened, he and Brad immediately went outside to find her. They carried her handbag, hoping to return it and figure out why she'd left so suddenly, but Connie was gone. They couldn't find her anywhere. Confused and concerned, the two men stayed at the bar until it closed at 2 a.m., hoping she might return, but she didn't. Shortly after Connie left the Hayloft, a worker at a nearby pizzeria claimed to have seen a woman matching her description at a payphone just 1 block away from the bar. A late 1970s model car was reportedly parked nearby, but no one witnessed her getting into the vehicle. Whether this sighting was actually Connie remains uncertain. Efforts to pull phone records from the payphone were unsuccessful, leaving investigators with yet another dead end. In the days that followed, there was another reported sighting of Connie at the Newport Apartments, just a 5-minute drive from the bar. However, after further investigation, police determined that this lead wasn't connected to her case. On June 4th, 3 days after Connie was last seen, her family reported her missing. By this point, they were deeply worried. They hadn't heard from her, which was completely out of character. Both Greg and Brad, the men who had been with Connie the night she vanished, cooperated fully with law enforcement. Their accounts of the evening matched up with each other's, as well as with the accounts of the bar staff. Police cleared them as suspects early in the investigation. Connie's light blue 1980 Chevy Citation, the car she'd driven to Greg's apartment that evening, was found parked outside his home. It didn't appear she'd returned to it after leaving the bar. Since 1990, progress in Connie's case has been painfully slow. In 2019, the investigation was reopened, but even with fresh eyes, no significant breakthroughs have been made. Detective Lieutenant Melissa Stevens of the Macomb County Sheriff's Office believes that Connie may have gotten into a vehicle with someone and that something terrible happened after that. Over the years, there's been speculation about whether Connie's disappearance is connected to other unsolved cases in Michigan. Some have suggested a link between her case and the disappearance of Paige Rankowski, a 30-year-old teacher who vanished just a week earlier on May 24, 1990. Paige was last seen speaking to 2 men on the shoulder of Interstate 96 near Fowlerville, Michigan. Strangely, her car was found abandoned on the highway with the engine still running. Her shoes and handbag were inside the vehicle, but Paige was nowhere to be found. The similarities between the 2 cases, proximity in time, location, and the fact that both women disappeared under mysterious circumstances, have fueled theories that they may be connected. At one point, Connie's case was also linked to Leslie Williams, a serial killer responsible for the deaths of 4 teenage girls in Michigan during the early 1990s. However, this theory was ruled out when it was confirmed that Williams was still in prison at the time of Connie's disappearance. According to reports from the Already Gone podcast, Connie had been living with her parents at the time she went missing. She had recently divorced after a short-lived marriage and had ended another relationship shortly before her disappearance. The breakup reportedly involved a verbal altercation that led to police intervention. However, both of Connie's ex-partners were cleared of any suspicion. Connie, Lynn Royce, just 24 years old, was last seen at approximately 11 p.m. on June 1, 1990. She left the Hayloft bar without shoes and was wearing a black, sleeveless mini dress with a floral skirt. Connie is described as a white female with sandy blonde hair. She has 2 tattoos, one of 2 names and a heart on her right shoulder and another of a bumblebee on her right wrist. Her ears are pierced, and she has a noticeable gap between her front teeth. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed around 120 pounds. If Connie is still alive, she would be 57 years old today. Her maiden name is Bostic. Connie's case has left her family in anguish. Decades have passed, but they continue to search for answers. Michael Martin, a 25-year-old described as a devoted brother and loving son, disappeared under mysterious and troubling circumstances on August 7, 2016. His family, who remember him as a caring and family-focused individual, has been left reeling from the shock of his sudden vanishing. To this day, the question of what happened to Michael remains unanswered, casting a shadow of grief and uncertainty over those who loved him. That fateful morning, Michael was in a car with a friend driving through Kearsley, Greater Manchester. What began as an ordinary ride quickly took a tense turn. The 2 men reportedly got into a heated argument, escalating to the point where the friend grabbed the steering wheel, causing the car to come to a sudden stop. In the midst of this chaos, the car's ignition key broke, leaving the vehicle immobile. Captured on camera by nearby residents who had overheard the commotion, Michael was seen wearing only 1 shoe, a small but haunting detail that has stuck with investigators and family members alike. Both men appeared to be searching for something, and later theories suggest that their argument might have been about money. Despite the broken ignition, the 2 managed to jump-start the car, and Michael's friend drove it to the Esso petrol station on Bolton Road. Michael, meanwhile, followed on foot. At the petrol station, CCTV footage provides a fragmented but critical glimpse into Michael's final known moments. His friend went into the shop, reportedly in search of tools to fix the car. Michael, left outside, was seen opening various doors of the vehicle before sitting in the passenger seat for a brief moment. Moments later, he walked into the shop, gestured to his friend that he wanted to leave, and then exited. The next sequence of events unfolded quickly. Michael returned to the car but didn't stay long. He stood near the boot, then suddenly turned and ran, glancing behind him as though something or someone had spooked him. CCTV captured him again a short time later, running down a nearby alleyway known as Back Bolton Road. This haunting footage, Michael wearing 1 shoe, fleeing into the unknown, is the last time anyone saw him. Michael's sudden disappearance has left investigators and loved ones grappling with countless questions. His bank account and mobile phone have not been used since that day, deepening fears that something terrible happened to him. Although known for his strong ties to family and friends, Michael's mother, Karen Williams, has spoken about the mental health struggles he faced. She shared that he suffered from anxiety and depression, which in the months before his disappearance had caused him to grow increasingly paranoid and distrustful. The friend who was with Michael that morning reportedly left the petrol station after Michael fled, driving away in the same vehicle, a black Ford Focus. Days later, the car was found abandoned in Blackley, showing signs of damage to both the ignition and one of its windows. Investigators also discovered Michael's second car, a blue Vauxhall Corsa, abandoned and damaged on Bannerman Avenue in Prestwich, 5 days after his disappearance. Despite these discoveries, neither vehicle provided substantial leads in the investigation. On August 16th, just over a week after Michael went missing, the case took a grim turn. Authorities announced they were treating his disappearance as a homicide. Searches were conducted at 2 properties in Blackley, a house on Longton Road and a flat on Victoria Avenue. The house had a broken, boarded-up window, adding to the eerie mystery surrounding the case. Police also examined a room at a Premier Inn on Middleton Road, hoping to uncover crucial evidence. 2 arrests were made in connection with the case, including Michael's friend who had been with him that day, but both individuals were eventually released without charges. No one has ever been officially charged in relation to Michael's disappearance. In 2018, 2 years after he vanished, investigators shared a shocking revelation. They uncovered evidence suggesting that Michael had connections to Salford's criminal underworld and had been exploited by an organized crime gang. Detectives believe that the night before he disappeared, Michael came into possession of a large sum of money. This, they theorize, was the source of his argument with his friend and ultimately made him a target. The money has never been recovered, and authorities suspect it was tied to illicit activities. Police have further stated their belief that some of Michael's friends, who were known gang members, might know what happened to him, or worse, might have been directly involved in his disappearance or murder. The gang he was associated with reportedly had links to drug trafficking and high-value robberies, casting a dark shadow over the case. In the years since Michael's disappearance, there have been few developments. In 2019, Clifton Country Park was searched for evidence connected to the case, but nothing significant was found. Investigators continue to appeal to the public for information, hoping that someone with knowledge of what happened will come forward. For Michael's family, the pain of his disappearance is a daily torment. His parents have described their ordeal as a living hell, unable to find closure or peace. As of 2020, a £10,000 reward remains on offer for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for Michael's presumed murder. Michael Martin's case remains unsolved, a haunting reminder of the devastating impact of unanswered questions.